Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And you?
What a great title. Director of Innovation.
Thank you. I didn't choose it. That's cool. I like it. I take it. A little bit of pressure with it, but it's okay.
It's a little difficult for
Chandra,
me.
is it difficult to hear me?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Is it better now? Is it better now?
It's a little bit better. If you continue to talk, maybe it will be.
Okay. Let's open the way.
That's good.
So.
I want to make sure I'm in the right place. Which networking session is this?
So the official title is
Diversity.
yes, racial equity. Let me find it. Equality in status, right, and opportunity. So Joy Atkinson should be with us very soon. She's the sponsor of these networking session, and she will very soon introduce also our moderator. Here, I don't see. Yeah. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Julian. Do you know how long the networking sessions are? I'm trying to balance my time into 2 different sessions.
It's supposed to be from 11:30 to 2:30, but I also think it's you make your own menu. If you want to stay a little bit here and then go jump in another networking session, it's possible. I don't want to talk for the planning committee of the Congress, but it has to be the purpose is to really foster networking and interactivity, and so I don't think there is a hard structure.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Commissioner Schaefer, welcome.
Hey, Julian, have I reached Joy's session?
Yes, you do.
Okay,
and
good.
I can see that she's here. She's just muted.
Okay.
And
I'll go get my lunch and come back.
Okay, no problem. Commissioner Regalado, welcome.
There you go. Hi, Julian. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Hi, everybody. I'm one of the panelists from earlier from the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council. My name is Thiele Thatch. So I'm here as a part of this networking event.
Yep, welcome. I did have your name here. So the name I have are, of course, Joy Atkinson, Lonella Enix, from Empowerment Congress Southwest. I don't know if she's here yet. I don't see her. Chelsea Mcelry. Chelsea. Oh, yeah, there she is. Brittany Blackie and Milton Keyser from Mid-City Neighborhood Council. I hope I don't misspell your name. Leslie Johnson from Coco. Not there yet.
Julian, this is Sylvester Robertson from Pico Neighborhood Council.
Hi, welcome, Sylvester.
Thank you.
Joe, can you hear us? Commissioner
No,
Atkinson, sorry.
no, something's wrong.
We can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I have a funny, I can't get rid of this Zoom slide that says open dialogue. And so I can't. All right, but as long as you can hear me, I'm all right.
Yeah, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, is Heather on? Is Heather Michaels on? No Heather yet.
No, not in the list either. And
I had this.
it's our moderator today, right?
Well, you know we can't see you, right?
Yeah, I know. What's?
You have to click on the camera icon.
See, I have this weird thing on my screen where I can't get to any of my icons. Julian, there's a thing on my side of my screen that talks about click to open, to launch the meeting, but I'm already launched, but the screen didn't go away.
You wanna?
If you move your cursor to the bottom left, you'll probably see the camera icon.
You can close that open dialogue screen once your meeting is open.
But my meeting is open. I mean, here I am, and I still have.
Can you try it? Okay, there's no way to close it. There's no little cross, a little X.
Yeah, I know, a little X. That's what I'm looking for. A little X. I don't have a little X.
Or if you wanna restart it and go leave
Maybe
the room and come back.
I'll go out and I'll come back. I'm gonna come back, y'all. Just
We'll wait for you. Don't worry.
Be back in a minute.
No problem. Wait for you.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Nikita. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome,
Okay.
Nikita.
You know what? I'm a little disappointed. I was told that we would be able to attend multiple sessions and that they wouldn't happen all at one time, so that, I'm just baffled as to how come it was set up where you couldn't attend all the sessions.
I am really sorry if you didn't get the right information. Something is sure that these sessions are recorded. So of course that won't give you the opportunity to interact in each of these sessions, but at least you will be able to access the recording of each of each session, and the link to watch the recording will be available on the website shortly after the end of each session.
So will I have the ability to click in and out of this section to go into those different sections to just kind of check to see what's happening? Because it just does not make sense.
Right now, yeah, you can
so
jump from a session.
Misinformation when they asked us to register for this program.
Yeah, no problem. If you leave, you can leave that session and jump in another session when you want.
You can also register right now for any of the sessions by clicking on the links that came in your email. How you doing, Lynn? Trying to stay safe.
Sorry.
Trying to stay safe and out of trouble, doing well on one, but not on the other. I'm going to mute for a minute. Go ahead, Julian.
No, no problem, no problem. Just that you said that if you go directly on the website of nccongressla.com, you can see the different session and just click on the session that leads you directly to the meeting.
But you have to register for each one individually.
Yeah, when you click on the link, you will have to register indeed. Maybe I want to share the great information that Ellen Evans from Bella Beverly Crest just shared with us. I don't know if you saw in the chat. On the top left of your screen, you have a little eye icon with, when you hover it, it says meeting information, and if you click on it, you can see the name of the session. So equality and status, right, and opportunity. That way, if you're lost in, you don't even remember in which room you are currently, that's a good trick. Thank you, Ellen, for that. Also, maybe, I don't know if Joy came back already, but I just want to remind to all the board member that the chat function is made available, it's public, so please use discretion in the information that you share or you may share. Do not discuss any business that might come in front of your board in a future public meeting, and that way you will avoid potential Brown Act violation, just in case there would be a great number of board members of your board during this session. But I really invite you to use this chat to foster networking and share information, share contact information with other people. So Joy is back, and we can see you, Joy. That's your. Can you hear us, Joy? Joy? I'm not sure that she can hear.
Looks like Joy is on her phone.
Yeah. Joy, we can see you.
Oh, you're there, Joy. Hmm. Oh.
Is she gone? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I had to change devices and everything. I don't know what happened to my iPad. Is Heather on now?
I
Heather
check.
Michael?
No, I don't see Heather.
Shoot, she's a moderator. I'm gonna have to wing this.
Okay.
Okay.
Unless she didn't register her as Heather.
She should, Heather Michaels.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to her. I'm on my phone. I just need to try to call her, but
I want to recognize my colleague, my Fong, that is with us too.
Joy, do you want me to call her?
Yeah, can you have Heather Michael's phone number?
No, you want to give it to me?
Oh, yeah. Her, hold on. Now I gotta find it now. Shoot. Heather.
If I can offer a suggestion, maybe the phone number shouldn't go over the air.
Yeah.
Maybe text. All respect to Heather.
No, she doesn't mind. She gives her number out to everybody. That's right. Let me give it to you because I think I saw her trying to get in. I don't know what her problem is. Lynn, give her a ring. This is probably another number.
I got. Wait. I see Heather Michael is there.
Oh, great. Okay.
Let's avoid to make a phone number public without their consent. I would just unmute her. Ask to unmute. Heather, can you hear us? We can't hear you. We see you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my video working. So
wonderful.
It should be coming up. Okay, let me know. Oh, I gotta press something to start it, I guess.
So I see that Brittany Blackie is here too. Joy, I tried to tell you for the people who are, Molten character is here too.
Do we have Reverend Eddie Anderson on the line?
Yeah, my video's just, there we go.
Yes, Reverend Eddie Anderson is here.
Oh, great. Hi, Eddie.
Hi. Finally.
Leslie Johnson is here
Leslie?
too.
Oh,
yeah, Leslie's here.
Hi, Leslie.
Lunella in it.
Lundella might not be. She wasn't on this morning either. I may have missed her, but that's okay. Is Brittany Blackie on and
yes.
Milton?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody, mostly everybody's here.
Yeah, and Chelsea Michael is here too.
So mostly everydy's here. Let me
my
get
video
my.
just go off again.
Let me get my notes here. Hold on just a sec. So we will get ready to start. As soon as I
kind of froze.
Items, here we go, items for that. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're not too late starting, are we? Are we close to, are we 11:30?
11:34, we're perfect. We're just waiting for the
okay.
last people to connect. So wonderful, Joy. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to cover a little bit in the morning, and then I'm going to introduce Heather because Heather's actually going to moderate this section. But I just wanted to bring up and reiterate that there are a couple of things that are happening in the city. And if all of you were on this morning, you know that there is the mayor's Executive Order 27, which sets up social equity officers in every department. And of course, you met ours today, Gibson, and you heard Deputy Mayor Brenda Shockley. The department will be presenting to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. We only can talk generally about it because some of the ideas that the department has, they have to be presented to the mayor. The mayor has to see the report, and then it has to come back and be presented on its worthiness and whether it's a good plan or not. But what we're finding is that the neighborhood councils have to start talking about social equity, have to start talking about how can we bring our humanity into focus, where everybody has an equal opportunity for, as we say, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So the department has done a couple of things on their own. They've had their own leadership development program that might be something useful for neighborhood councils to implement, where the employees at the department kind of have gone through some sensitivity sessions and how to organize in the community. And it sounded like something to me that would be good for neighborhood councils to participate in. but there are some neighborhood councils who've already put together some of their programs. The department has also, and we don't think of this as being social equity, but it really is, because the department has put together some good work on the digital divide and how we become more equal in sharing information. And Julian, who's doing our stuff today on our program, has really helped put that together. A neighborhood virtual governance protocol that's very important, I think. I think what neighborhood councils are doing, and this is what I would like to get past as I discuss all the time, is that we're so busy with administration and kind of not looking at what we really need to be doing as a neighborhood council to make a difference. And I hope that this racial pandemic has like all of a sudden brought us into focus that maybe we ought to be doing something besides worrying about what somebody says about us or talks about us, and maybe we ought to really start working together to get some things accomplished. So I have as our actual moderator for this session, Heather Michaels, who is on the board of the Encino Neighborhood Council. And as we mentioned this morning, the networking session really involves neighborhood councils. And so this is going to, so Heather serves as our moderator. We invited two folks because partnerships are very important. So we did, besides have our neighborhood councils, we expanded, and I had the pleasure of being able to invite, and they being able to come, Leslie Johnson, who's the vice president at Community Coalition on outreach, and Reverend Eddie Anderson, who's with LA Voice, who does outreach for that program. And both of these organizations are definitely interested in social equity, bringing truth and justice and harmony to the community. And I thought that they would be very important to the discussion. Heather is a longtime person involved in media and broadcast, and was kind of the original when they start talking about hosts for entertainment programs. Heather is kind of goes way back, as we say, way back, and is deeply involved in broadcast journalism and had a lot of contacts. And so I was very pleased with the fact that she wanted to participate in this particular workshop. And so without further ado, Heather, welcome to the moderating duties.
Thank you. It's so good to see you guys. And thank you so much also for having some patience with us as we get through some technical difficulties. My video seems to freeze from time to time. But getting right into this, yes, I was so pleased and so happy to be able to participate in this very important part of the program. Inequity affects us on every level. Inequity is financial inequity, social inequity, racial inequity, and systematic, inequity, discrimination on many levels. We have gender inequity, like I said, ethnic inequity, climate inequity, homelessness, mental health, the list goes on and on. So the objective here really is to try to get past that imbalance that we have seen and really has been going on for a century. We're kind of getting back to a place that's a really ugly, dark place. We want to really unite all of our communities, bring everyone together, hear everybody's voice. So everybody is a part of this conversation. It's just so critical. You hear the mayor, and really everybody is voicing the integrity, the how critical it is for us to, especially in these days and times with the current political climate, that we collaborate, everybody plays a role. And, this has really become something that's unleashed, and it's a virus. It's not just that we are in a pandemic. This is the virus. This inequity, this discrimination and imbalance is an inequity that we really have to solve. And by doing that is bringing everyone together into one conversation and hearing everybody and making sure everyone knows that they have a seat at the table. Everybody's got a voice, and we are going to work together to get past this and to uplift one another. So again, playing a role. Everyone has a role here. Joy and I have talked about this as well, that this is going to be an ongoing conversation. As the mayor had spoken about, we echo that. We are on board with him, and this is going to be a weekly conversation. This is something I had been working on for well over a decade. We called it something else back then, but I'm just so proud of Joy's voice, her place here, and we really are looking at this as everyone's a guardian of the community, and that's a term that the mayor uses. So, you know, with that, I'm really blessed and happy to be able to participate with all of you here today.
So are we going to, there are a few questions that I thought that we should try to answer
Yes.
during this time that would help get the conversation started.
Right,
You want me
okay. Yes, did you want me to get into those bullet points?
Yeah.
Okay, so those are, you know, obviously we've seen so much going on with our communities and the marches and protests and Black Lives Matter. And a lot of people want to say all lives matter. All lives matter just really is across the board, but because Black Lives Matter has been really kind of ignored over time, that is where that comes from. And we just always want to show that we are all a part of this movement. So many have joined this coalition of demonstrators. And with that comes good and bad, you know, without really saying, you know, those definitive terms. It is true because we are in a divided nation right now, and there are agitators, and we want to kind of separate, you know, from those people and remind our communities that we are all one. We're working together to bring peace, tranquility, and a workable program that is really so imperative so that we can accomplish these good things that are set forth that we want for our communities and bring that together. So, you know, the federal government in a lot of ways has let us down, but we are also a state that we have our own platforms here. And we are so fortunate to have the mayor and Governor Newsom, you know, which protect all classes. So it's not just about, and a lot of times we see this, it's, you know, kind of like brown and Black people are forgotten. And this, you know, political climate, this presidency wants to kind of push these people aside. So, you know, ethnicities, various colors, various genders, you know, whether you're transgender, your sexual orientation, gender identity, you know, your control of your own body, you know, national origin, age, all of these things, disabilities. This is another thing this presidency has issue with. Again, we are all about all people, all lives, all sentient beings, animals' lives. Everybody is included here. So, you know, making sure that it's very clear that there is zero patience for intolerance. And we have obviously a lack of historical knowledge here that brings us back to a scary time where we can see what's going on now, and it's very representative of another time, and we are getting into that climate. So, you know, at the heart of systematic discrimination and inequity, you know, the government has put these little Band-Aid fixes on issues, or they just kind of talk about things, but there's no backup. And so it is our responsibility as a community to make sure that we take those steps, that we are peacemakers, that we provide solutions, that we all come together. So you guys have seen there's a lot of grassroots, there's a lot of organizing. We've all been a part of that. And, you know, underneath all of this, we have learned a lot. But history does, and this is something that Joy said so brilliantly, it gathers dust on the bookshelves. And where do we go from here? Where we go from here is, again, we uplift one another. We make sure everybody knows that they are part of this conversation and nobody's going to be left behind. No matter what we're hearing from the Oval Office, that does not speak for any of us, any of our communities. So whether you're Black, you're brown, you're transgender, LGBTQ, you know, you have disabilities, you're a veteran, we stand with all of our communities. So I'm so disheartened to see some of the language that comes out of the Oval Office. Things are going to change, you guys. I know this is not what our focus is, but this is a part of it. So how did we get there? How do we move on? And that's where this is why this conversation today is so critical. So with that, we have this wonderful moderating session, and these are many of the areas that we're going to discuss today. And Joy,
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that one of the phrases that's come out, and I'm thinking maybe we should make that clear before we start the fuller discussion. We talk about systemic discrimination, and I noticed in talking to different neighborhood councils throughout the city that some folks don't really understand what we mean by systemic. Either in some areas they haven't been witness to it, or they just never related to it. It's just interesting that I thought we should start the discussion with really trying to explain systemic discrimination. And I thought it would be good, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but I thought maybe that Reverend Anderson could kind of address that to begin the discussion. Simply because LA Voice is so active in the community and has to deal with systemic discrimination.
It's important to define that, and we're so pleased that you are here today because the foundation of explaining a little bit of that history and what that means, because it means different things to different people, will be very helpful. So, you know, our communities can understand, well, this is what it means. And again, it means something different to different people. How do we move forward so that everybody feels they're a part of this? So thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Heather, and thank you, Joy, for inviting me. My name is Reverend Eddie Anderson. I pastor McCarty Church in the West Adams neighborhood, and LA Voice made up of over 55 congregations across all of LA County, actually, which represents over 40,000 people in LA. Systematic discrimination for me is around the exclusion of folks who are a minority, either based upon race, gender, or ability. And in this moment, I think what we really should focus in on is that while we are living through a global pandemic of COVID-19, that there's a larger pandemic that's been happening in our country for over 400 years. It's a pandemic of 1619. Right? So we can't talk about systematic discrimination, talk about racism in this country, because racism or institutional racism, we have seen raise itself across all sectors of life. In Los Angeles, we saw this during COVID-19, that we still have not yet fully recovered from the evil of racism. That still, our city has become segregated. We saw that with testing in our city initially, and the way testing was distributed, and we saw the way that it impacted communities of color more than others. That's not on accident. That's done through institutions. And so what we've noticed in LA Voice is that they make that, depending on zip code, and depending on the demographic of the people who live in your neighborhood, you may get certain resources and services that other neighborhoods do not get. And that's based upon systematic discrimination, which is also coordinated throughout all institutions. Now, it's not always intentional, but it's also always, as you would say in my neighborhood, in the Kool-Aid, right? It's there in the mix, right? It's a part of how we create laws, whether knowingly or unknowingly, that disenfranchises people from resources, from opportunity, from education, from advancement in life. And so most of the issues that you are seeing showcased, and when we say we work with Black Lives Matter as well in LA Voice, and that's because they are dealing with the root of the problem of systematic discrimination, which is race and class in this country. That when you look at the Constitution, the founding documents of this country, all the way down to the laws, and you saw that the county just passed a racial equity lens, and the city's working on figuring out how do they do that with Brenda Shockley as well. It's talking about how do we right the wrongs and make sure we are giving investment where we have divested for so many years. And so systematic discrimination is really getting to the root of that and saying we first have to admit that we are not allocating resources, we're not allocating funding or education opportunities equally. And a lot of times it's based upon race and class. And you gotta just be okay with that and understand that's what's happening. And then to undo systematic discrimination, we have to figure out, how do we do targeted investment? How do we put people who are closer to the pain at the center of the solutions that we so often leave people out of, and that we're not acting for individuals, we're acting with individuals to uplift their communities as well. So that would be my answer for what systematic discrimination looks like and how we've seen it. And I think COVID-19 has really shown us across the city what that looks like, even when we're looking at testing, we're looking at food distribution, we're looking at who are the essential workers and are their needs being taken care of in our society. We're looking at the digital divide in education, and we can look at maps and figure out, depending on what zip code you live on and what race ethnicity you are, if you're Black or brown, you may have less access to the internet, or the internet may be slower when I'm dealing with my neighborhood, right? And so how do we right those wrongs to make sure that everyone truly has a chance, as Joy said, to pursue happiness, and that their barriers are swept away?
I would like, can you hear me? I didn't mute myself, did I?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. There have been some questions in the chat room about the Black Lives Matters issue, and about many of us who have joined them, but that they are considered Marxist, socialist. They are considered, I guess, underminers of the American government. And I find that interesting because this is information that I want to share. I'm not a Marxist. I'm not a socialist. My father was one of the first African Americans to run for public office in Los Angeles. The system of government is very important to me. Yet, I go to Black Lives Matters meetings. And I know the disruptors, and I know the folks that are true protesters who want to see a difference, like Reverend Anderson was pointing out. There is systematic discrimination and systemic discrimination. And I just wish that there was some way we could discuss that without maybe calling out names and believing everything that we hear in the news. And I would like us to discuss some of that, and maybe some of our neighborhood councils that are in South LA can join in on that. I know that Thyris Mason is on the line, and I know that a couple of our other neighborhood councils are on the line, and the Mid-City Chamber, Mid-City Neighborhood Council with Brittany Blackie and Milton Kaiser are on the line and have started a social justice committee. And I would like all of those folks to kind of weigh in on this issue. Thyris has her hand raised, so I would like to hear from Thyris.
Thank you, Joy. Good. It's almost afternoon, so I'll just say good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to speak to someone asked for a definition of systemic injustice or systemic racism. Yes. And I'm going to give an example of something that started off with good intentions in this city, and that's transit-oriented development and transit-oriented communities. Started off with great intentions. We're gonna stack housing along transportation corridors and hoping that people won't use their cars as much. They'll use the trains for access. We'll reduce our emissions. It'll address the housing crisis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, again, started off with good intentions. Looking at South Los Angeles, our real estate has remained depressed for decades, making us very cost efficient for developers to construct in. When you look at the definition of affordable housing and the incentives that are given to those developers to develop along those corridors in our community, the affordable housing definition is based on the county's median income of $61,000. Sadly, that is not true of many communities in South Los Angeles. For instance, adjacent to USC, the data shows that the median income is $40,000. So what you have is an immediate recipe for displacement. It is a disadvantage to those residents who are in this community. They can't, if they're being displaced, they can't apply for those housings because they simply can't afford it at a $40,000 median or real income when the median income is $61,000. So that's something that, again, started off with good intentions, but could be perceived as systemically racist, a tool for displacing citizens who reside in disadvantaged and communities of color, and something that we as neighborhood councils can challenge and fight back on, to challenge the city to look at a different way of defining affordable housing, or imposing some flexibility as opposed to a cookie cutter definition of what that median income is for this city. Because it's going to increase housing, it's forcing people to move outside of the community that they want to live in and play in and do business in and work in and thrive in, but can't do so if we're fighting against an income level that exceeds the reality for many of the citizens in the community.
Heather?
Yes, okay. I was going to ask if I can jump in there. Yes, regarding how all neighborhood councils can participate and work together, that is so important. And I see a lot of the messages in the chat here, not forgetting prison reform and, all sorts of different levels of everybody that's kind of been left out of this conversation, which again also includes homelessness. So I just want to also say I apologize because this is not a political issue. This is an inequity and an imbalance issue. And so making sure that there are economic opportunities for everyone, and some of the things that the mayor addressed, we definitely want to echo that and get this right. Really, again, reinforce that everybody belongs in an equal way in these communities. So let's have that conversation. Let's, address these issues and discuss solutions. I think that's really where we need to keep moving that conversation and that dialogue.
Hi, if I may, I'd like to jump in. My name is Leslie Johnson. I'm with Community Coalition. We're a nonprofit organization, a social justice organization in South LA, right there on the corner of 81st and Vermont. I'm just listening to the conversation, and I just think that there's a couple of, I know that the way that the Community Coalition operates from kind of a foundation of some values and some kind of truths assumptions, if you will, or truths that we believe. And I think, some of those truths are that our country is built on a foundation of racism. It's from the very, the birth of our country is embedded in racist practices and connected to our economic development. Our country was built on the backs of enslaved people. And the wealth inequities that we see now go all the way back to that foundation. And racism, I prefer the term systemic racism. I think discrimination might imply something different. I think people can discriminate against each other, but racism is about power. I can't be racist against someone if I don't have power to impact their life. Of course, I don't like to be called names. I don't like to be discriminated against, but I'm more concerned about policies and programs and things that are presented as serving everyone, but do not, right? And I think the way that Community Coalition approaches, addressing systemic racism is through a lens of equity. And then equity is what we need to, is the principle that we need to apply in a lot of different spaces in order to work our way out of the terrible history of our country that we're still experiencing now. To Pastor Eddie's point, this is a current issue. This is happening right now, right? And so I think the piece around equity, and there's movement around the Office of Racial Equity and on the city level and other efforts in the county, is really thinking about there has been a history of disinvestment in certain communities, in Black and brown communities. other communities have thrived because they've been invested in. And so the way to start to correct some of these things is through an equity lens, which is not the same as equality. So I want to just say what the difference is. So I believe that equity is the way that we can get to equality, right? But equity is about giving people who have been systemically, disinvested in, giving them the more investment than maybe another community, right? To kind of get to the point where things can be even the playing field. But I don't like that term. But and I think that people seem to have trouble with that concept. Is like, well, no, everyone should just get the same thing, and that's what equality is. But if we're understanding where we're coming from, then we need to invest more in certain places and certain people,
absolutely,
because they've been disinvested in. And I think that concept is easily understood in other spaces. For instance, like in a hospital, in an emergency room, right? Someone goes in and they have a splinter in their finger and they need attention, and they got there first and they've been waiting for 4 hours. And then someone else comes in and they have had blunt force trauma, like their life is on the line. Everyone understands that even though that person just got there, that they need attention first, right? Their case is more severe, and no one would debate that. No one would say, nope, the person with the splinter has been here since noon. They need to get their treatment first, right? So I think that concept is easily understood in other spaces, that people who need more should get more. And particularly when the need has been, the more need has been established through racist policies. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, and just I think equity is an important concept to think about as we're making policies, and in terms of neighborhood councils and the people you work with. I would I definitely believe in having more and more partnerships, and so definitely Community Coalition is a place that is looking for partnership. We need everyone. The more people we can get at the table to address these issues, I think the better. And that's definitely where we, would want to invite partnership and collaboration.
Thank you. Can I jump in? This is Dee Like That from the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council. Thank you so much, Leslie, what you shared. Thank you for having me today, Joy, Commissioner Joy. So what you just shared, Leslie, is so important. And what from my experience on the Neighborhood Council, I've been an HR professional for over 20 years. At one company, I was the head of diversity, and I was looking at my community in Van Nuys approximately 3 years ago, and our neighborhood council was largely made up of white males. And so I was new to Van Nuys, didn't know what to do, but I definitely saw a level of inequity there. Excuse me. So I just wanted to share just the power of getting involved, because in less than a few weeks I got involved. I found other like-minded people, brown and mostly brown people. I'm the only Black woman on the board in Van Nuys. There's another Black male. But since the time I was elected with over close to 80% of the vote, one of the largest turnouts, we had a slate, we were able to change the dialogue in Van Nuys, which we're focused on things like naming post offices, to most recently taking a stand that we support Black Lives Matter. It may sound small, but this was a tremendous victory in Van Nuys to even say the word Black Lives Matter. So I just wanted to share, number one, the power of one person, that all of us have that power to just speak to what is happening in our communities. Change starts locally. Change starts in your neighborhood. This is crucial, and to be thinking about it that way. That's mainly the point I wanted to make. Most recently, because I was on the board, we were able to have this discussion around Black Lives Matter, around defunding the police. Those conversations would not have happened without innovation, without diversity, and without inclusion on that neighborhood council board, because we had a few people who were upset. They did not want to use the word Black. They didn't want to use the word diversity. They don't want to use the word Black Lives Matter. So it's people like me and other people of color who need to be in the room to make sure we're having those conversations. And so we need to be spreading the word to make sure that we have more Black and brown people who represent a community like Van Nuys, which is close to 70% Latina. When that board, for the past 10 years, they had maybe 3 Latino people on the board. right? They weren't even representing. So shout out to Damaris, who just recently was elected, and her daughter, Lillian, who's also on this call right now. Hope to hear from you. They're brand new board members who just 2 years ago, most likely they probably would not have even been voted to the board. So that's real change that needs to happen in our communities. This is how we make a difference, one by one, being in positions where we can add other people of not just diversity, but including people, listening to people, giving people an opportunity to have a voice, and then to take action with that voice. So go to our bnnc.org if you want to see our statement around Black Lives Matter. I was very proud. As you know, if you worked on councils, it's hard to push anything through, but we specifically wanted that language of Black Lives Matter, because here's the last thing I'll say, working in diversity in HR, there definitely is systemic racism that affects how you get employed, how you get hired. I've seen it with my own eyes as an HR person. And it wasn't until this year that we could have this conversation because of organizations like Black Lives Matter that I can even say Black Lives Matter because, and be heard. This year, last time, I would be considered divisive if I used those terms, right? So that organization, whatever you think about it, has opened up a discussion that has never happened in our time, in our generation. So thank you so much.
We have, yeah, this is Joy. We have a lot of hands risen, and I was just going to go down in order, and and get to the ones that haven't spoken. I believe Angie Brown has her hand up.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm from WCKNC, that's Koreatown, so we're the north end of CD10 and the south end of CD13. This is a really important conversation. Also, Thyris Mason, I'm thrilled to find out about you and your organization. And would you send me put the email in the chat, please? Our neighborhood, first of all, we have 150,000 stakeholders. I think we have the largest group of stakeholders of any neighborhood.
Huge. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and the same budget. And we have huge language problems because we have English, Spanish, Korean, and Bengali. And we really only deal with Korean language translations because we don't have the budget. And so therefore, we have way fewer Latinos than in the population. And we don't have many Bengali speakers. We have one. So I'm really concerned about the equity that my neighbors have. And another issue is the TOC developments. I literally drove and marked every single building being built in my neighborhood and every empty lot that's about to be built. We are the most park poor neighborhood. We have 2 tiny little parks and we have the highest index. So in terms of social justice and climate change, we are at the bottom of every other neighborhood council. And Thyris, a lot of the issues that you're finding in South LA are so relatable. And I really would like to, all of us, but really like to collaborate on this because I really want somebody other than an old white lady, me, being able to take the seat and talk about this stuff because I want more language equity and more inclusion of the incredible talent and energy of the immigrants in our neighborhood council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll also, before I go to the next hand up, wanted to mention that we have the Mid-City Neighborhood Council with us, and that's Brittany Blackie and Milton Kaiser. And I wanted them to talk about their social justice committee that they put together. So Brittany, could you come on and talk about that, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Blackie. I am on the Mid-City Neighborhood Council, as Joy mentioned. I, like many of us, I think we're part of recent protests. And after that, I think there was a lot of conversations about how to not have this be an afterthought. So what I and a couple other people decided and started talking about was an ad hoc committee called the Racial Justice Ad Hoc Committee. And I think that also what Joy mentioned is that in a regular stakeholder meeting now, we are trying to accomplish so much that fitting this a very, very important issue into a meeting just really isn't tenable. So we started an ad hoc committee. And then had basically overwhelming response. It is now a standing committee. It'll be something that we talk about once a month. And basically our mission, of course, is to bring this lens to every decision that is being made at MINC. So while we have, I think, 10 members of this committee now, there's no way that one of us won't be in another committee or won't be represented in resiliency or budget or any of the other things that we talk about at our neighborhood council. So we're currently talking about CISs, of course, how we can have a voice at City Hall, but also MPGs and where our money goes and how we look at how we spend our money with a racial justice lens as well. And my co-chair, Milton Kaiser, works for a nonprofit with that lens as well. Milton, if you'd like to jump in, I'm happy to have you take the floor. But that's just some of the things we're trying to do at MINC so that this isn't something that becomes an agenda item that we don't either, people obviously care in our community, but that we don't have time for in a 4-hour meeting. So we're trying to make it a priority.
Yeah, Milton, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, I guess I'm about 40 years old. So, and I see what's happening in the environment right now, in the world right now, is that this is my generation's civil rights movement. And we are at a time where we cannot, we can't let the momentum lose. We have to keep it going. We have to, and there's so many other people who see it, and we have so many, you know, it's just time for change. And I'm just done with all of the systemic racism that is so embedded in this country. I mean, even America existing in the whole process of manifest destiny, you know, white European man thinking he could take over any land he wants and conquers, and it's just time for change.
Milton, what are some of your thoughts on solutions, what we can do, where you're coming from?
I think Leslie or another person was talking about, we really need to figure out how to get some type of equity back to people of color, because we were not on the same, we are so far behind. This has never been an equal playing ground, and it's just so far to come back from. I really don't know the solution, and that's why we have our committee, is to try and figure out how to come up with some type of solutions.
Right, and that's the point of this, is so we can all have that dialogue and that continued conversation. But I love what you said about the equity, financial equity, because it's in balance. So really,
yeah, I mean, when you say financial, it doesn't have to be like monetary wise, but I mean, when you even think about redlining in this country, which is only 50 years old, when you know you're stopping people of color from getting property and creating generational wealth, right? You know, it's a hard thing for us to obtain, and making sure our next generations, you know, are better than us.
Heather,
there's a lot of areas that need to be focused on, and I think, you know, breaking it down into those things like real estate, like you said, it really has been, that's been a significant imbalance. And when I say financial equity, I mean, I think it was Leslie that pointed out, and several others, you know, putting more money into some of these communities that have kind of, you know, been left behind. And, you know, maybe some of the schools or the community centers and programs, that's why it's really so critical to these partnerships. With grassroots organizations and other nonprofits, so that we can work together to uplift everybody. And again, everyone feels like they're part of that conversation. So there's a lot of those areas to, you know, really, you know, try to remedy that, and time is of the essence.
I saw Reverend Anderson I think he had his picture up. Did you want to say something before we went to the next hand up?
Sure.
Reverend?
I wanted to suggest, when we're talking about solutions, that we all have to vote on November the 3rd, or even before then, you can mail in ballots. There's 2 initiatives that are about equity. One is Measure J, which says that the county will give 10% of their budget invested in communities of color, Black communities, to alternatives to incarceration, to make sure that we have housing in our neighborhoods and into healthcare, 10% of the county budget. The other is a statewide measure, which is called Prop 15, which is School and Communities First, which will equalize the tax bracket, which is also the tax code, another way to systematic discrimination, and then reinvest that money in LA. In LA, that's $4 billion a year back into schools, roads, and emergency services. So those are two things that you can do right now that your neighborhood council can look at and figure out if you could support to make it a more equitable Los Angeles. And then on a city level, I mean, you could ask, how do we shift the city budget to make sure that happens as well? But those are two things on the ballot today that you can lean in on and examine.
Right. And I want to encourage you guys to run for neighborhood council. A lot of people still don't even realize that neighborhood council is your voice. That's about you guys, the community, stakeholders. This is our community. So, you know, you can run for office, and this is something that, you know, we started working on a couple of years ago to really help educate the community and let them know that there are resources. So your voice can make a difference. So, you know, you can help be that extension of our city council members and our government, where we can get these motions passed and we can develop more programs. So, you know, a lot of those things, and I do just want to bring up one other thing, because it's really important with the pandemic right now, and inequity. And equity it's imbalanced here as well in a very significant way, because you know, people are suffering. People don't know. A lot of communities aren't quite sure how they're going to pay the rent. Obviously, we all know this is a major issue. So, you know, those programs and resources are imperative. And there are programs and resources out there, but still a lot of people don't even know about that. So providing some sort of educational pamphlet or something where we really can reinforce that these programs are there for everyone. How can we help you find those programs, those grants, and fill out those forms so that we can all get through this pandemic together? So I just wanted to bring that up because it's really critical as well.
The next person that had their hand, well, there's a lot of people that have their hands up, but the next person on the list is Danielle Mead. Danielle, did you want to contribute?
Hi, yes. Hi, my name is Danielle Mead. I'm from Hollywood Hills West Neighborhood Council, and I wanted to thank you guys for putting this together. I guess my question was more to the people who have already taken steps to try to address, you know, social justice or equity on their neighborhood councils. I think it was helpful hearing from Brittany a little bit, but how are you going about doing that? Because some of us on our neighborhood council have offered a couple of suggestions, and we keep getting kind of stymied by the neighborhood council system doesn't allow you to do that, and the neighborhood council system doesn't allow you to do that. And so we initially did want to have an ad hoc committee, and we were told an ad hoc committee has to have a set goal. And since ending, you know, racial or social injustice can't be achieved, we couldn't have an ad hoc committee for that. So I'm wondering how you were able to do that. And then also, oh, there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. Right now.
Danielle, can you give us an example other than the one you just gave of something else you guys tried to do that didn't work?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the other thing. What the previous speaker was saying something that made me think of it. But I can't, that was the one. I mean, we were trying to figure out how we could incorporate on an ongoing basis, you know, this discussion instead of having it. Oh, I know what it was. Someone just mentioned something about, the Reverend just mentioned something about encouraging people to vote or to support some of these different propositions. And we've been told that neighborhood councils are not allowed to take a position on state propositions. We had someone come and talk about the rent control, and they were, you know, I mean, we were allowed to discuss it, but we weren't allowed to take a position on it or support it. So that was another one of my questions, is how can we represent our community and in making their voices heard on some of these more broader topics without running up against neighborhood council rules? Unless I've been misinformed, which is possible.
Yes, this was saying that actually.
Someone has their mic open and there's a lot of conversation in the background. Could you please mute yourself?
I was just going to say misinformation is really dangerous in this day and age, and making sure people have facts, they have the factual information, so we can all work our way through this together. And it's about, again, working together. Healthcare is another, you know, critical issue. making sure that there is health care and, you know, that opportunity for everybody to be able to seek and get that balanced, you know, outreach of, you know, care that's necessary.
Don't get too
Yeah, this is Joy. I just wanted to make a point about taking a position on political issues. There probably is a no about taking a position and saying, as a neighborhood council, we're for such and such running for office, or we're for this, or we're for that kind of proposition. But the one thing the neighborhood councils can do because of their outreach, or if they use their outreach, is to have public forums on these issues, and folks can make an intelligent decision themselves. I just was at a neighborhood council, I think about 8 or 9 neighborhood councils got together last week and did a forum, a political forum on the candidates running for the 10th district. Now, they didn't take a position on who they were for, but they had the forum so that people could discuss it. So just as Reverend Eddie was bringing up about the propositions, that's something that neighborhood councils could do, because so many neighborhood councils don't even know what the propositions are that are on the ballot for this November. And that even just bringing it out as information is a helpful tool that neighborhood councils can use. And by the time you get to pros and cons, folks will make the intelligent decision. Oh, that background is really bad. But anyway, that's how you use your forum. You might not take a position, but you can present the information, and that's what you can do. And I just wanted to make that point. Okay.
Hi, it's Cyrus. I want to say this. Alliances don't receive taxpayer funds, so we are not subject to the Brown Act, and we're not beholden to some of the rules of neighborhood councils.
Right.
So
Wow, that's true.
Political issues, if there are political issues that you want to take a position on, take it to your local alliance and ask them to take a position on it, because we can take position on state issues. We can interact with state legislators and bring those voices that are silenced by the neighborhood council system to their attention.
Yes.
That's right. It's a good point. Thank you
And
very much.
I feel like it's also our job as neighborhood council members to provide those resources to our communities, to the public, so that, like you said, Joy, they can decide for themselves. People can decide for themselves, but they need the tools. It's our job to help provide those tools.
Right.
Next on. Oh, sorry, Joy. I was just going to say,
go ahead.
If you're trying to have an ad hoc committee and being told that you need to have a purpose, make one up. Just have it be. We're trying to. We are trying to identify the racial inequities in our community in the next year, and then take the year, and then in the year you can change your goal. Like there are ways. As far as I'm concerned, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment should be empowering us to make these committees. So if you are getting told no, they're not helping you. So if you need help in identifying ways to make these committees work, please feel free to reach out to me. I will help you word it in a way that will allow you to have these conversations, because they're important and worthy, and you should not be being known to death.
I'd just like to chime in and agree with Jenny. We ran into no such issues. We came up with a mission statement very early. Yes, there are restraints within the NC system, but we've become a standing committee because of the number of people that we have involved. So you shouldn't be running into roadblocks. You can get around it for sure.
Great. There's always a way to get around bureaucracy, right?
Yeah. Valley
Vanessa,
Alliance and neighborhood councils. We do it all the time. All these members from the Valley neighborhood councils meet, and we can get away with anything.
They've told us on our board of neighborhood commissioners that when we do ad hoc, you have to have a reason. You do a reason, and then you change the reason, and you get more time. You can deal with it. Another hand that was up that I don't think we've heard from, Vanessa Johnson.
Hi, I just wanted to add what Sias Mason said about the voting in of these transit districts. What has happened with changing the plan to transit districts is allowed the equity that Black and brown families had in home ownership, they are losing it at great disadvantages now, because you having these investors coming into our neighborhood. They're buying up individual homes, tearing them down, and building these large duplexes. Now, what you don't have is home ownership in a neighborhood, and you're taking home ownership equity out of the neighborhoods now. So you are increasing poverty in these neighborhoods now, because now you're left with.
Yeah, which affects the education system and the money going in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And really coming up with a list, hearing from you guys, what are the areas that need the most focus? These are all the conversations that we're going to continue to have, but really like looking at this, okay, so we brought up, the real estate and property, also healthcare and reinvesting in communities, and all of these areas are topics in themselves. And this is the ongoing conversation that we will have, not that we can have, we will continue to have this.
Exactly. Mr. I don't want to mess up your name. Mr. Kalasian?
Yes, thank you for having me. Great meeting. I just want to answer to Farah of Van Nuys. And Farah, I'm glad that you came from Van Nuys, but I wanted to tell you that your member Adrien Nazarian is the champion in fighting for social justice,
yes,
anti-Semitism. You must reach out to him because he has the legislative power where he can help you complete your mission. Sometimes neighborhood councils chapter, it doesn't. You all today spoke about racial equality and social justice, but I personally have not heard any word about bigotry, about racism, about violence, and most importantly, you forget to mention about anti-Semitism.
Yes, thank you.
How would you feel a white Jewish male on the board of a neighborhood council get attacked and vandalized, and yet the commission of the neighborhood council have took any resolution to protect? Your anti-Semitism, your racism, it's very important. Thank you.
Very, very important. Thank you so much.
Across the board.
Yeah.
And that includes genocides. There's genocides in almost every, religion and group. And so, yes, that was a great point. And thank you for bringing that up, because that is a critical part of this conversation as well.
And Heather, one last thing. There was actually a resolution that has passed, an ethnic resolution by the LUSD. But what they did, they modified the language. They added the Armenian genocide and the Holocaust. How many of you kids in the school system, they know what is Holocaust, they know what is Armenian genocide, they know what is Black Lives Matter, they know what is anti-Semitism? The answer is none. That is something that's very difficult to take it to.
That's why we're discussing it. Exactly. Yeah. Next person. Thank you very much. Next person is this the last name or the first name? Imayatsi Oliver.
Yes, Imayatsi.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I almost got it.
You did pretty good. Like, I'm impressed. First, just excuse me for eating. I am with child and always hungry. So I just wanted to first just piggyback on, I think Philae, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, what she had said earlier about, joining Van Nuys. And I was sort of in the same situation for myself in terms of, I serve on the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. And I just, this is my first term here that's going to be coming up ending. And it was for, similar reasons. I saw a void. I saw a place where my voice could be used. And from there, I also started the Cultural Affairs Committee because I saw that as being a way to address and celebrate, all of the cultures that are in our neighborhood. And, since this time period that we're in and seeking justice, that Cultural Affairs Committee has kind of become the voice for our neighborhood council in terms of seeking social justice and things like that. And someone mentioned, you know, just what are some of the things that we can do. And for myself, one of the things that came up as a way to, what can I do? What can we do to try to empower us as board members on the neighborhood council to be the best that we can be, the best, you know, intermediary to the neighborhood. And one of those things was I proposed the idea of adding implicit bias training to the current cornerstone training program. And went to a bonk and brought that up, and I think it was Eli Littman was very supportive of that, and the board, the commission was very supportive of that, and I believe that has gone on and is being yes,
yeah, it has. Yeah, it has.
Yes, you know, and so that was just a way that I felt that could empower us as board members to take a look at ourselves, to take a look at our own bias. Because we're in a position where we deal with the neighborhood. We deal with different kinds of people every day. We need to be aware of those blind spots that we have.
Yes.
And that's why I'm just really thankful for this meeting and being able to meet with these other, with all of you on the other councils to see how we can amplify our voices even more, to amplify this issue even more, because I agree with the gentleman said. I mean, this for me is my civil rights movement, and it means so much. And so right now we're just in the process of putting together a town hall series. We already had one with the business owners in our neighborhood, and now we want to have another one that's dealing specifically with racial equity, so that the neighborhood can have a platform to talk and be heard. And so I just think I'm glad to be here, and thank you to everyone else for sharing.
Yeah, and
I would love to
just to
connect
know,
with you too, so
yeah,
we can all work on that, a weekly
right.
conversation.
Yeah, and just to note, the implicit bias training, I think, is going to be involved in the social equity planning in that Executive Order 27. I just thought I'd make that clear. I also wanted to, before I go on to some more hands up, wanted to, because I brought her on just really quickly in the morning, and that's Chelsea Mcelry from the Zapata King Neighborhood Council, a young leader. And I wanted to give her a chance to talk about what Zapata King is facing up to. It's a very diverse neighborhood council, very racially mixed. And I just wanted her to say a few, you know, to talk about what they're thinking about and what they're doing. So, Chelsea.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Chelsea, as Joy mentioned. I'm the president for Zapata King Neighborhood Council. Being the chair of Zapata King Neighborhood Council, I do have the pleasure to say that our board is actually diverse in terms of all board members, and that hasn't been an issue. Some of the issues that we are going through is more so of our community. As I mentioned in the morning, that one of the big issues, of course, police brutality, and how do we address that within our boundaries. Another issue is homelessness, which is a big issue that a lot of neighborhood councils is going through. One of the things that our council discussed is how comparison of South LA homelessness issues to other communities, such as beach cities. And that is a big issue that when we drive by in South LA, we're quick to see someone homelessness. We see encampments. You know, I love my people, right? But it is unfair that some communities deal with homelessness issues different compared to, so for example, South LA. They move faster, and that leads back to how a lot of our city departments move faster for other communities versus for South LA. I know, me being the president, I have invited the sanitation department, and of course with COVID hitting, they couldn't attend. But I reached out several times, probably about 2 times after via emails, to see if they could come present during our Zoom meeting. No response. But in my opinion, and if another community was to reach out to them, they probably respond quicker. And I feel like that's a problem with a lot of city departments, not just sanitation. And so homelessness issues and police brutality and the lack of city services with South LA. And I think one of another issues that I'm noticing is that when you report something using a 301 app, a lot of people don't understand the difference between city and county. So when you report something, and it's so fine that it's unfair to our community, because they always say report if something, you don't like how something looks in your community. If it's a full trash can that hasn't been picked up, they'll just dismiss it and say that, okay, this is a county area. So those are some of the issues that our neighborhood council is going through. But the big one is really homelessness, because when you drive by, it's quick to see encampments, and then with COVID hitting, it's increasing. And I've received several emails with attaching our city reps for within our boundaries regarding this issue. Encampments, the starting of fires because of encampments. A lot of homeowners coming to complain about the homelessness issue and them using their power, not feeling comfortable just coming out their house to go to their cars, or their kids can't even come out to play because of this extreme homeless issue. And as I mentioned, and there's communities that deal with homelessness issue rapidly versus us in South LA. So.
Yes, Chelsea, and I want to echo that, because the homelessness, really there's, a lot of discrimination against the homelessness, and it's really, it's heartbreaking, because, a lot of homelessness, some of these people were just on the brink, and now we're in a pandemic, and there's more people that are becoming homeless. And so, really uplifting them and having, a lot of the neighborhood councils do have the homelessness committees, and we have a fabulous one, and we're working together. But something Joy and I touched on the other day as well is, having, establishing something that kind of strings together. And I know Bonk and the neighborhood Congress is here, but we need, I think, an additional committee that kind of brings together all the individual neighborhood councils, and where one council may not be getting the support they need, or they may not be strong in a particular area. Maybe it's homelessness, maybe it's on the inequity area, or other issues, where others will kind of step up and help be that and echo that voice, or be the louder voice, so that everyone kind of feels like they have that support mechanism. So having a support team is really critical. So I really appreciate all that you have said, and your your guidance here, because it really does take a village.
Well, Heather, I would have to ask, is that not Dunn's responsibility? Is that not what taxpayer dollars are paying for? Because a lot of us are stretched to our limits, and to think of creating one more alliance or one more subcommittee to address issues that a department we are paying into should be lobbying for on our behalf it's a stretch. It can be overwhelming. And in South LA, we are
sort of. I was just getting ready to say, and I was going to actually bring it up to Thyros after listening to Chelsea. I agree with you. Of course, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, of course, will turn around, because the mayor already mentioned it today. There may be, layoffs or furloughs, and so they don't have the money or the outreach. But I think we're a strong enough group, to tell you the truth, to do some of the things that need to be done. For instance, I think more people ought to come to the South LA Alliance of Neighborhood Councils, because the problems that Chelsea just brought up that hits the Zapata King has hit Can Do. I was on a meeting and listened to Can Do Neighborhood Council talk about those issues. I've been to a couple of other neighborhood councils where they have similar issues. And sometimes they seem to forget that, maybe if they bring it up to, really come to Slank on a regular basis. And, I come from I don't want to talk about my age, but anyway, I come from the old civil rights movement. I mean, I was a demonstrator. I demonstrated in front of stores, and I did everything, and was going to go demonstrate down south till my parents told me I couldn't go. So,
I believe in demonstrations. I believe that we have the numbers, and that if neighborhood councils, if Zapata King and Can Do and a couple of other neighborhood councils say, look, we got this homeless problem and we want to help the homeless, but it's also affecting our own homeowners, and we need to do something about it. I think as a group, we need to demonstrate down at City Hall with those city council people. I've sat in front of many city council places in my youth. And in my youth, I probably was called a lot of names that Black Lives Matters are called now too. And you just evolve. But I think we have the wherewithal. I don't know if we need to invent something new. We just need to push what we already have. And I'm just biased because I'm in South LA, but I'm really happy that when I do go to a SLANC meeting, I see more participation than I have in past years, and I see it growing because of the issues. And I think that's the way to go. I don't think you're going to get much, and I hate to say this because it's my department, but I don't think you're going to get much more except knowledge and technology help from done. And ways to do something, but you're not going to have the money support, the financial support until the city figures some way to get more solvent. And I don't know how or when that's going to happen. I would like to bring up, and I would hope that maybe SLANC could take it up as an issue. We need to figure some way to work with the city council where neighborhood councils are allowed to take nonprofit money, to tell you the truth. We need to figure a way where we can bring more money into the system so that we can do some things in our community. We have to do everything through other nonprofits.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
It would be a change in the charter.
Yeah. It would.
But we're moving through change right now.
Joy,
we are moving through change. So these are all things that, and as the mayor said, things are changing, where there is more of a community advocacy with the police reform. So there is change. Now is the time to ask for change. And what's beautiful about this as well, I just want to make just one quick point about what Joy had mentioned, is that we have the ability. We can organize. We can just move forward. We don't have to wait for done. Done is, in some ways maybe at their limit of what they are able to do, but we can all organize as a community, and that's what we will do.
Heather, Len Schaefer, Commissioner Schaefer.
Hi, Len.
Hey, Len.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, with regards to taking money, neighborhood councils were allowed to take donations for a number of years by way of statute, ordinance that went by the boards quite some years ago. So maybe that could be reinstated. But I'd like to let you know that, okay, I'm a West Valley Neighborhood Council, Tarzana. We have the same situation with the homeless that many other communities have. They're living under our freeways. They're moving into our residential neighborhoods. They take up residence outside our commercial areas. We ask for help. Fortunately, we have a very interested city council member. And I find that that's one way to do it, is to work very closely with the city council with regards to what can be done, with regards to new bridge housing and things like that. We're opening one after another in Council District 3. Some are being opened quietly, hopefully without too much community pushback. But we do have the same problem, and that is, what do? We can't move people out from under the freeways. Judge Connor may make the city and county do so. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but he is looking at that perhaps on an individual council basis. So form up and go to your council. Yes, I agree with Joy. SLANC is a way. Out here in the West Valley, we have an alliance, one more alliance, and it has to do with homelessness. And the members of our homeless committee go to those meetings, keep in touch with them. Yes, they are virtual now, but through that, they're trying to find solutions to some of these issues. And
Heather? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, there's some other things to say, but I'll come in later. I've got my hand raised, and Joy can call on me. because there's a few other things I'd like to say. So,
Hi, Heather. It's Karen from Granada Hills North Neighborhood Council. I didn't have a hand, but I wanted to say something to tag on to what you said, that outside of our neighborhood councils, form your own army.
Yes.
Look at your centers of influence. As an executive professional for 32 years in the insurance industry, I have that center of influence, centers of influence, as well as your family members. Look at that holiday Christmas list. Who is on that list? Who are your professional centers of influence? Get those powers, get those dollars. There are ways to form outside an ad hoc, outside your neighborhood council. I actually have had the, I would say, and the honor of being introduced and partnered with the representative who's working with the family of Breonna Taylor.
That's amazing.
And getting that insight into what they're going through.
Wonderful.
Working on. So champion those, use your resources, your voice. You know, I started on my neighborhood council. I didn't even think I would be on a neighborhood council, but advocacy outside the neighborhood council got me into the neighborhood council. And then as Heather and some of the people there know, it went to outreach, and now I'm the vice president and chair of outreach.
Yeah.
So, and
she's a strong leader. Karen, you're such a strong leader. You're such an inspiration. And, you know, this is using that and kind of reminding people in the community that they can, you know, do this as well. So thank you so much, because you really are fabulous. You're such an amazing, strong voice.
Well, this is Joy
other,
again. Oh, I just wanted to make a point to follow up on what you just said, is personally why I invited Reverend Anderson and Leslie Johnson, because they're from two great organizations that people in neighborhood councils can certainly get involved with, to especially on this social equity issue. And doing partnerships with other organizations is very, very important. So I just wanted to piggyback on that.
And I also want to say, in the underwriting of my homeowners, my loan to purchase a home years ago, my my mortgage broker was clever enough to, although I didn't really want that, he wrote white on my application to get my loan pushed through, and got it through. And then when I went to escrow, they changed it. It shouldn't have had to be that way.
Right.
But at least he, who was not Black, knew how to get around,
to navigate through that
barrier and get in my home.
That's a sad commentary, though, isn't it?
Isn't it? Isn't it?
I wanted to go to always being deference to my fellow commissioners on the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners. I see that that Commissioner Ray Regalado from the South Bay area is on, and I would like him to. He had a comment, and I would like him to recognize him.
Thank you, Joy. I appreciate all the work that you're doing in this session, and I'd like to kind of just make reference to the fact that for approximately the past 30 years, I've been involved in another aspect. Someone said I'm with HR, and they're from the human resources aspect, but I'm also someone who has worked in HR for the last 30 years, and that is from the human relations aspect. I've done human relations work. I currently work for the Human Relations Commission for LA County, but I also had the opportunity to work for a period of time for the Human Relations Commission in Orange County. Just let me say, it's night and day, okay, between the two communities. But the work, everything that's being talked about today probably falls under the, the one area of social sciences that many people would call critical race theory. And it is important to know that this type of experience differs based on your personal experiences that you grow up with, that you experience, that you see laying in front of you. So the experience of this type of work is something that everyone is coming to based on what they have experienced and what they are seeing in front of them. I've heard some really great aspects of what this subject matter can play in, and some of them that I'll just repeat is implicit bias. That's something we need to address constantly and highlight, because this is where we as individuals find ourselves reacting to certain aspects of community. Systemic, but also in the same breath, institutional racism. It's something that, again, we have hit and we've talked about, and it's really important in how we deal with things. Also, when having conversations like this, I think it's real important about people to understand what the optics look like. You know, who's speaking for who, and how are we being inclusive to bring the various feelings of various communities in here. I have heard the whole spectrum of what's important in communities based on, you know, neighborhoods that are being represented here. And it really goes back to the fact that this subject matter is something that we really need to focus on if we're going to bypass or address what is ailing our communities. I would hope that when this session is coming close to an end, that there will be, and now I'm talking about my old organizing piece, I hope at the end there will be some action items that we can rely on, that we can think about, that we can all join in on, because what is terrific about this conversation right now is that there's passion. There's feelings, you know, as far as what people are experiencing, and they want to bring together, you know, how we can do it, and do it as a group of individuals across the spectrum of Los Angeles, which is another great opportunity that we can't just let go. So I'd like to say this is an opportunity to organize. We have heard people that want to take action. We will have people that want to do something, you know, build that army. Well, we can as individuals. I'm going to tell you an experience that I had as a neighborhood council president when I first got in here. We advocated for a specific issue in our community. And I got called to the, as the president of my neighborhood council, I got called to the city attorney's office. And my hand was slapped, because the thing that he indicated to us was, we are not advocates, we are advisors. So we would need to be able to touch upon what we are perceived as what we can do, and what we can organize to actually do. And I feel that we can actually do so much more in this whole thing. So I want to just say one last thing. I really appreciated the individual who said that, or the couple individuals that said, this is my civil rights experience right now, you know, for the younger people. But know that there are people who have experienced that coming back from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and all these experiences of organizing that came about. I remember the Watts riots in the 60s. I was part of the moratorium walks in East Los Angeles, you know, in the 70s. We have an opportunity to learn from each other, teach, you know, generations that are in front of us, that there are things that work and things that don't work. We have the opportunity to get so much done today, should we choose to do that. And it's not easy, but I will say that it's really rewarding when it's all said and done. So I hope that at the end of this, like I said, I hope we have some action items. Yeah. I hope we have some steps that we're going to take so that we can keep this conversation going, because this is an important conversation that affects us all. Because at some point, some of these issues will kind of fade away, but I guarantee you they're going to repeat themselves in a generation, in a few years or whatever, until we start addressing them and look for those solutions. And that's what I have to say today. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ray.
So appreciate your voice. And Joy, I just wanted to mention that maybe that is something that really kind of focusing in with John and find out, because a lot of us don't really know what is okay, what kind of conversations can we have. So maybe that is, you know, a meeting that we have via Zoom where we can address those questions and ask and find out.
Good idea. I'll write it down.
Joy, Joy,
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Len. Sure.
Could I pick up on Ray's?
Sure.
Okay. I come from a different generation than just about anybody who's online here today.
Except for me, I'm with you.
And almost Ray. Number one, let me say that I'm very, very encouraged to see the idea of activism amongst younger people. You talk about implicit bias. I come from 35 years in working with law enforcement in the County of Los Angeles. And I credit that with two things. One, well, I credit it with one thing, and that was I was allowed to work with people from different generations, from all types of backgrounds, all types of issues. And I got to know people, and I got to see where my own biases played into how I looked at people. And I saw how the biases of others colored their views of people and how they acted or how they expected them to act. I want to say that one of the biggest things you can do is educate. You can protest and everything else, but the fact that you're out there, that you're joining things, that you're going to things, that you're interacting with people, that you're letting them get to know who you are and what you do and what you think is so very, very important. As I say, I have seen implicit bias that I don't think many of you have ever seen before. I have also experienced, because of my religion, bias and such as that. Fortunately, in the last couple, well, I was going to say in the last couple of years, I personally haven't, but when I was younger, yes, I did. When I was in school and such as that. When I was in the military, I saw some. But educate, interact, talk to people, let them know who you are, let them know what you've been talking about here. It is such an education. It is such a revealing thing, and it can combat so much of this bias. Some people are never going to change. There are some people whose mindset with what they've grown up with are going to be that way, and it is never, ever going to change them. But for those people who have grown up, even in my generation, in many of their backgrounds, if they have the opportunity, if they have the good fortune to get to know people like many of you, to see what you have to say, to see what you're doing, to see what you're doing in your communities, then you can make a big difference, a very big difference. And I don't disagree with you with regards to the equity and everything else, but I'm talking about on a personal level. And if you can do that on a personal level, that is absolutely great. If you can get there, if you can talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Next. Well, I don't want to hold people up too long on this list. And the next person has been waiting for a while is Melissa Plowmoden.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Plamondon. I actually work with LA Sanitation and the Environment. I wanted to let you all know that I'm here, I'm listening to you, and we want to hear what you have to say. And, you know, I heard what Chelsea said earlier about not being heard from sanitation. I've provided my information in the chat, so if you'd like to reach out to me, you can do that. I work on the environmental justice team with LA Sanitation. We're currently putting together a work plan and have a table of contents that's been placed out for groups to comment on I work with Liberty Hill Foundation along with LA Collaborative, which includes several groups like Pacoima Beautiful, Unión de Vecinos, and Communities for a Safer, Cleaner Environment, CBE. And so what I've noticed, and I've gone to some of the neighborhood councils committees and heard from the communities, but what I've seen is a lack of ability to communicate effectively between the city and the neighborhood councils. And so what I would really like you all to kind of look at within your organization is how we can communicate better. I think there's such a great opportunity here that you guys have all organized. But I want to know, how can we communicate effectively? How can we, when we get tree grants, like we have tree grants for East Boyle Heights right now available, we're seeking community input. We talked to Unión de Vecinos and we told them, go ahead, outreach to your community. These are the grants we have. We're going to be planting trees in your neighborhood. Where do you want them? But to get that feedback, it's a little bit of a challenge for us. And so I think looking into this is a great way for us to continue the communication and also make sure your voices are heard and also see the action in your community that you want to see, because we need your input, but we need that collaboration because the city's so big. We have so many groups. We need to have an effective way to communicate. So I just like to put that out there and you know, let you all comment and start to think about how you can come together and maybe propose a solution for something like that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. David Silvis. David, are you there? You going bye-bye? Okay.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, very good. Well, I appreciate this conversation today. I'm actually for the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council. I'm the chair of Planning and Land Use. And just wanted to say, you know, a lot of this stuff is comforting to know in one level, you know, that we're not just going through this alone in Boyle Heights, and other communities are having the same problems. But on the other side, it's really concerning. That's a lot of this stuff is still happening. I just want to put into a nutshell kind of what's actually happening in Boyle Heights, and a lot of it is mirroring other things in other communities. Right now, with sanitation, there's been some streets in Boyle Heights that have not had proper street sweeping for 30 plus years. It's gotten to a point where there are activist groups that have taken on the work with what the city should actually be doing. So that in itself is concerning, and I know that we've gone to sanitation for that. So there definitely is a disconnect that's happening. And what we see with lower income communities is a lot of their city services, and this is a form of inequity, you know, don't get honored. Other communities have their streets swept, we don't. Other communities are facing TOD or transit-oriented development, like us, and others are not. There's studies that are shown that transit-oriented developments are now kind of being carried on the backs of lower income communities like Boyle Heights, Westlake, or even Lincoln Heights. And that in itself is red flag, so much so that we are coming out with a community impact statement to oppose all forms of TOD projects with the way they're currently shaped. We believe that there needs to be healthy communities and hybrid models of affordable housing, not just a box that contains 90 people and they give you an obligatory tap card. So a lot of this is concerning that the other neighborhoods are experiencing the same thing. And I just want to jump over to sort of intrinsic racism or systemic racism and blatant racism. You know, even myself, you know, it's a heavily Latino community. And one of our PLUC board members, who's African American, when she moved into the community and asked her neighbor to move a fence away from their property, she was called, why do you N-words even want to live here? So we have a problem. It's not just a quote, white thing. You know, even our heavily Latino community, I've seen some horrific racist comments made to African Americans, to the Jewish population that is very small but still there. the Japanese Americans who don't get any voice, but have been there since the 1920s, and even myself as a Hungarian, have been, have had some horrible things said to me. So there needs to be action against racism in all of its forms. And sadly, it's not a very black and white issue or cut and dry. Someone can say something, we can say that's racist, but it's almost an infection that creeps into different aspects of all life. So that's my comments, and this is a very refreshing venue, and I greatly appreciate you guys putting it on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just wanted to make a point. This is Joy. Just wanted to make a point, that this morning we said that it goes beyond the black and white issue, that it's discrimination on all levels. As the neighborhood council started talking about their own geographic area, but it's all very similar, except it's different. It's similar in that we have these biases and prejudices, and it's all a matter of treating everybody as human, and that they all deserve the rights to a good life. And we do, and that's probably where the implicit bias training may come in, where our social justice committees may come in. I'm writing down some ideas, and once we finish having all the comments, I'll kind of outline what I have seen come out of this discussion today as far as action items, because I am writing stuff down. On the list of who hasn't spoken yet is Chandra Mosley. Would you like? Are you still here?
Hi, Joy. Yes, I am still here. I don't know if you remember me. I'm with Park Mesa Heights.
Hi, Chandra.
Yes, I was the president for a very short time.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the pictures, and now I can see you.
Now you see me. Okay.
Yeah.
So much has been said that I'm just trying to stay calm, because I typically get riled up with all of it. But what Mr. Salas just said about the TLC projects and how they're invading our communities and really not working on behalf of the communities are very, very distressing. But I want to focus on the everyone lives matter, but the Black Lives Matter issue. And when I think of Black lives, I think of the, from a different perspective, I think of the brown and all the other different races that includes. And as it relates to the police brutality, as Mr. Schaefer mentioned, with his background in law enforcement, I also have background in LAPD for 20 years. And I worked internal affairs my last 6 years. And I know without a doubt that defunding the police is not the answer. There is a core element of corruption going on nationwide, where there are groups of white supremacists, skinhead, anti-governmental individual who are infiltrating the law enforcement agencies. And whether you defund the police or not, and look at other social elements, mental health and all the others, you're still going to have that core group of people who are there to torment and create and kill and cause havoc amongst our communities. And they exist in the sheriff's department. There was recent news about the enforcers. I heard on the radio this morning about the 300 group that is inside the prison under the sheriff. And there's bad apples within LAPD and other law enforcement agencies. But until there's accountability held for those particular individuals who have no loyalty to the policies of the department, until they are appropriately addressed, it's going to continue. Whether you defund the police, you got to have law enforcement, but you still have, good and evil out there where people are going to pray. In fact, they're going to take opportunity of this whole issue that we have, because they're going to say, well, now the law enforcement police officer may not stop me, and so I can rob this person or rape someone, or those type of crimes still exist. But if you don't, if the city leaders, meaning the mayor, the governor, the city council members, and the administrative hierarchy within each department address the core issue, defunding the police will do absolutely nothing. What we see with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and all the others will continue. That's one thing. I believe that the mayor mentioned about the, or I read the executive directive 27. And so the mayor is talking about equality officers within each department, but these people need to be trained on how to identify, how to address. They have to take their leadership roles responsibly to address it when they see it, because we have ethical units now, we have HR, but people still feel like they can continue to do what they're doing. Same thing with the neighborhood councils. I was the president for a very short period, Joy, you know that, and you know the issues that I had with that, because coming from LMPD, I believe in law and order. And so, and I didn't try to, like arrest everybody, but I wanted questions answered to certain things that I felt were incorrect. And this is why the community is not coming to the meetings. This is why we're having this issue A, B, and C. Where's the funding supposed to go? Here's the boundaries. This is what we should do. And so there was a lot of resistance there. But until the neighborhood councils are held at a consistent standard across the board, not just by the bylaws, but also by the Department of Neighborhood and done, until they're held at a standard where there are, because they are advocates of the communities that they serve, to get what is needed within the city departments that are paid through our taxes. And so to think that we can't advocate for our community is, I believe, not correct. And I mean, I can go on and on, but it's very emotional for me because I've been fighting with the council member, writing letters, giving suggestions from a different set of lenses, and know that I want everyone to be treated equally. I don't care what color you are. You could be polka dot, it doesn't matter. You're a human. I feel that God created us all. We all came from the same place, just different regions of the world. And so I just really feel that until there's consequences and standards developed that are enforced, these things is going to continue on, and we'll be talking about this in the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point, this is Joy. I just wanted to make a point. I went back and looked on my notes with regards to police funding, to, there's a lot of stuff going on with the LAPD community safety partreghips. There's a new deputy chief, a Black woman, Imada
Scott.
Well, Regina Scott said,
Regina.
no, not Regina, it's Chief Imada Tingarides. Who's a
yes,
deputy
I know
chief. She's new.
her as well.
She's new, and I think these folks, she and Brenda Shockley, and need to come out to our neighborhood council meetings so you can find out what. So neighborhood councils, not you, neighborhood councils can find out what's going on as far as establishing partnerships with these folks to improve the situation in our communities. And I really think it was important to hear briefly from Brenda to this morning. And I know that we can make room to have more time with her
maybe at a swank meeting, Cyrus, or some, or at some neighborhood council meetings. I just think it's really, really important. And I think Chief, I don't know if she's been out yet, but Chief Imada Tingarides is really articulate and really believes in community policing and really believes in what you were talking about, Chandra, with the training of police officers and how they are recruited and how they come into the department. And of course, there's a big discussion among us women that think we ought to have more women in the police department anyway. So anyway, but that's a whole nother discussion. Anyway,
she's really awesome. She's very nice. She's very approachable.
Yeah.
Her husband is nice as well. And so there's things that people are, I think language, especially coming from the council and the mayor and the governor, language can be very, my son is a police officer. So language can be very deadly. And so when you say defund the police because this bad thing, these isolated bad things happen, I know it's a lot, especially when you see it on the news over and over, but you're people who are opportunists and have criminal minds look at that with a broad brush. So now you have just put a target on my son's back. Now my son hasn't hurt anyone. He hasn't used his weapon at all. But now, because he wears that badge and he wears that uniform, you don't know that he's gone out and saved lives and did all kind of resources, and you don't know any of this. All you know is that he has that badge and uniform, and you take him out, ambush him because of the negative language. You gotta be very specific. Be specific about our sheriff that is covering up for these enforcers. And as I learned this morning, these 3,000 groups that are killing inmates for no reason. It's anyway.
Yeah. Next
Joy,
on the list.
Joy, you have a panelist who just sent me a text that his hand has been up for an hour.
Oh, who is that?
Moises Rosales of Empowerment Congress.
Oh, he's next after Sylvester.
I was just getting ready to, but I was just getting ready to call on Moses because he was one of our original folks that was on this morning. So yeah, I was just getting ready to call his name and then I will go to Sylvester. So Moses, you want to say something? Obviously you wanted to say something. Where are you?
He might be
I'm
muted.
right here.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Thyra. Thank you, Joy, and everybody here. I just wanted to say, I mean, as I hear everybody and everyone's expressing their concerns, there's only been one person really on here, which is the last person that just spoke about, who's pretty mainly responsible a lot of the things and issues that we're having. A lot of the things that we're talking about, like the development and gentrification and all that, we have elected officials that are allowing this to happen, and we're not talking about that. We're not talking about how holding them responsible for allowing what's happening and displacing people in our communities. So I just wanted to bring that up, that, I know that a lot of us have, we work close contact with our council members and, supervisors, Congress people, but they are the ones that are allowing this to happen here, and they need to be held accountable, and plain and simple. And I don't want to take more of you guys' time because I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say. But I think that needs to be in the conversation.
That's why it's always good to have these political forums, just like the neighborhood councils had last week, to listen to these people and and make a decision and a judgment on their worth and capabilities. I agree with you, Moses, totally, that we need to have more political involvement or more voting involvement and more, and our citizens need to pay attention to these folks. And, I've learned over the years in working in politics, because I've done it for so long, that sometimes folks just go and they just automatically vote for the incumbent without doing any research on who they are and what the people do. And it is up to us as neighborhood council people to say, look, we better educate these folks. Maybe we can't tell them who to vote for, but we can certainly give them the information. And I've noticed just in my years of being around that more of that is being done, not enough, But that's the only way. You're absolutely right. These is, you know, and then of course elected officials. And again, I'm, you know, without naming names, you know, folks will change their mind and say one thing when they're not running and another thing when they are running. So, you know, you gotta pay attention to all that, to
and like you
all
said,
that
Joy,
stuff.
providing the tools and the information, you know, we can't, you know, choose or tell people who to vote for, but just telling them what some of those people stand for and explaining some of those issues that they're voting for or against, because a lot of times, like you said, people don't know, and sometimes they're just guessing. So, you know, that's important on the grassroots level, on the community level. It is really an important area to help people navigate through.
Commissioner, it's Suzanne. You've got about 6 people that have had their hands up. Maybe we could get to some of these questions before we wrap up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I could get to it real quick. And next person was Sylvester Robertson. Thank you, Suzanne.
And Demarius Macias has had her hand up for quite a while as well.
Okay, she's right under Sylvester. Okay.
Thank you.
Sylvester? Hello? Oh. Or maybe we can go right to.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, I've been here for an hour.
I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. But you gave me a nice little lead in there with about getting educated. I'm from Pico Neighborhood Council, and I'm actually have an education. I'm the chair of the educational committee, and the JJJ.
And we used your Zoom last week for that candidates forum.
Yes, we did, and we had a nice discussion before, during, and after.
Yeah, right.
But, I would, you know, thanks again for all the information provided this evening. This a lot of ideas and concepts were brought forth in this particular one about trying to explain the systemic racism. But I wanted to focus my comments here on solutions.
Great.
And through our education committee, we were able to do a number of things that we felt pretty good about in terms of getting at this particular problem. First of all, our council did have a diversified meeting last February, and we really worked at it real hard, but we didn't do very well with it because we got a majority of minority people that were not a diverse group of people. And so I'm glad to hear that that Dunn and the city are moving toward having this whole concept of racial equality talked about and taking some action for that. The other thing was that through education, people really need to get a better handle on how they deal with their finances. And through education is one of those ways that you can help people to accomplish that goal. We ran through our education committee a meet and greet session for the last 3 years on bringing together parents, school officials, and local business people to talk about how they can help each other. And in the process of doing that, people found out how they could use their funds in the most efficient way. And so that was a good move for us. But if you can't figure out what to do with your money the way you think you need to do, then you're going to spend it in places where you probably don't need to. It's Black businesses have been fighting for as long as we've been in this country to get equal access to the funding. And in many cases, they had to rely themselves on the local Black churches in order to accomplish that particular goal. Here in the 20th and 21st century, we are still fighting that battle because we can't get our hands on enough investment money to do what we really need to do. And we have many, many Black businesses across the country. In fact, we have about 5 Black businesses that are over $1 billion, but they're at the bottom of the pile. And the reason they're at the bottom of the pile is because they do not have enough of financing that from other sources that will allow them to expand their businesses. So that's my thoughts.
All right. Thank you.
Joy, we've got 3 minutes, so
3
we gotta
minutes.
hurry because we have a hard stop at 1:30.
I thought it was a hard stop at 2 o'clock. I'm sorry.
1:30.
Oh,
Lillian,
okay.
Lillian's next.
Yep, Lillian's next. Julian gave me a wrong time.
Hi, Lillian.
Go ahead, Lillian.
I'm gonna say it's the most respectful possible. Well, let me start off by saying I'm a 16-year-old politician.
Lillian, we can't hear you. We're having a hard time hearing you.
Lillian,
and I'm also a mixed youth that looks white on the exterior, but I'm also, Black, Hispanic, Jewish, etc. And I just am kind of disappointed with this meeting because I feel like it's pushing an agenda.
I'm having a real hard time hearing Lillian.
Maybe we can get her back and go to the next one.
Okay, let's go to. Can we go to Mr.
That people tend to forget.
Tell her we apologize.
Black people are Jewish,
Oh.
And as far as I've seen.
Lillian, I'm sorry, we really can't hear you.
And we have 2 minutes to go, guys. Sorry.
We have Mcelry.
Can you try to unlog and relog, and maybe connection will be better? But do it quick.
Let's give Mcelry the platform, and if we can get her back.
Hi, my name is Mcelry. I just wanted to offer some solutions and some.
It's just things like that that really concern me as far as BLM. And I feel that this meeting is kind of pushing an agenda that encourages that, all white people are racist and that all white people are the problem, and that BLM pushes that too. And
I just want to make sure I'm not the only one having.
She's on audio. I think her video's not working.
No, she's got a problem, Julian.
Okay.
Can you mute her?
Yeah.
Okay, so Moran.
Yes, one last comment to Amayatsi. Amayatsi, Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, along with the Granada Hills, are working on the final platform about the social justice and also about Black life and the Jewish as well.
Her audio is still coming through.
And I can reach out to you, or you can reach out to me.
Okay.
Thank you, Moran.
We can reach out to you. Thank you, Moran.
Thank you.
Okay. I think are we done?
We're right on the deadline, 1:30. But the conversation will continue.
All right. Julian told me 2 o'clock.
They did.
I was even told 2:30, so I'm sorry.
I'm going to get after him. I'm going to get after him.
Yeah.
Julian knows there's 30 minutes.
No problem. I'm really sorry, Commissioner Atkinson.
Julian.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
everyone.
Thank you,
Such
staff.
an important conversation.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
have notes. I will send them out. I have notes. So.
Yes, Joy.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Suzanne, and everyone.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Gianna.
Thank you. Bye.
You guys are amazing. All the neighborhood councils, thank you. Thank you, Julian.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great
Freddie,
rest of the day.
technical man.
She's still talking.